Don't forget to go to SaraACarter.com for the latest stories and download my podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, today I am joining you from Uvalde, Texas, where the state and much of the country remain in a state of shock and horror at the despicable murder of 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School here in Uvalde. I was just at the school yesterday, standing out in front, watching the residents and people from as far away as San Antonio and other places coming to the school, bringing flowers, saying prayers. It was gut-wrenching, to say the least. I ran into some friends, people that I had met here before, acquaintances, I would say, more or less, but people that I feel like I'm connected with just because we have children the same age. And anyways, I'll go into that a little bit more. This has been a really difficult time for our nation. It's been a very difficult time, more so than anything, for the people of this beautiful community. Just a little over 16,000 people live in this community, and I'll tell you what some of them had to say to me while I've been here. I don't plan on leaving until, the end of the week. And I only live actually an hour and 45 minutes from the area. I'm going to share all those thoughts on this horrific mass shooting. And please follow and subscribe. Get all the links at SaraACarter.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list so that you don't get shadow banned. Folks, before I get to Uvalde County and Uvalde and what happened here in this community, I want to talk to you a little bit about 2024. And why this is so important. I think you all can see that, right? From what's happened in our nation with skyrocketing prices, inflation, everything from the border crisis to what we're seeing in Ukraine right now. So imagine a scenario in 2024 where Vice President Kamala Harris is being urged to determine which electoral votes count and why. Imagine that. Why? Because the Electoral Count Act isn't specific enough. This is true. The Presidential Election Project wants to see this changed. I want you to visit www.presidentialelectionproject.com to learn why reform of the Electoral Count Act is so important. The Presidential Election Project believes Congress should clearly define the role of the vice president in counting electoral votes and make clear that the position is ceremonial and is not tasked with determining the outcome of any election. It also wants to raise the threshold required to object to counting a state's electoral votes. The bottom line is that it believes states should do their jobs of timely deciding election results, and Congress should respect each state's lawful results. Listen to this. Go to www.presidentialelectionproject.com now and learn more. Take the first step to ensuring Kamala Harris can't unilaterally decide the 2024 presidential election. That's www.presidentialelectionproject.com. I don't think anybody in the nation that saw what happened here in Uvalde, Texas, at Robb Elementary School can even comprehend what that would be like if that was their own child. For all of you out there that, watch this on television, and I mean, we try to put ourselves in the shoes of some of these parents. I have a 4th grader. The gunman was in that 4th grade class. The children were literally left in the hands of the most evil that we can ever imagine on earth. And those videos of the parents wailing outside the school, not being able to go in and see their children, not knowing if their child was alive or dead. The weight of that in this community, you could feel it. You could literally feel it in the air as you walked through this town, as you talked to the families and the residents here in Uvalde. You could literally feel that weight. The pain is so deep. The pain is so deep that even those whose children survived or who are sitting in the hospital, those parents are now feeling the weight of the loss of their friend's child and saying, why did my child survive thank God, but their child died. It's an unimaginable pain. There were 19 children and 2 teachers killed. And of course, the gunman. I remember coming out to this community, to cover the border off and on all the time. Be out here, and people are welcoming. I can't even begin to tell you. It's the reason why we moved to Texas, my husband and I, because we love the people. We love this state. We love the way people are here with one another. Right now, I'm staying at a ranch here in Uvalde. I didn't need to go stay in a hotel. One of the people that I met here on a story in the past, they were like, absolutely not. You're not driving an hour away from town to find a hotel. You come stay with us. And they opened their ranch to us, and they gave us a room. And my gosh, even when I got back from Sean's show a little after 10 o'clock last night, John, who is the ranch manager here, was making my cameraman and I, dinner. We hadn't eaten all day. We had not eaten all day, and he was in the kitchen cooking us dinner at 10 o'clock at night. He made chicken, and he had rice and broccoli and snap peas and a glass of wine and some fresh tea, sweet tea. These are the kind of people that make our nation so amazing. And and across the street from this ranch is another family that lives in the area. They're ranchers. They have children. Their children are in the 4th grade, and then 2 others that are younger. And they are homeschooled. Can you imagine? I've spoken to them. Can you imagine what they feel like? Because their children were not at Robb Elementary that day, thank God. But their friends were. But the kids that spent the night at their house all the time were. But their dad, who coached, the sports team, he had to get calls from his friends saying that their children had died. Some of the families here literally had to go meet with the FBI at a location that we were right near just yesterday to give swabs so that they could identify the bodies of their own children, because the gunman had literally demolished that room with bullets, riddled it with bullets. Can you imagine what that was like? That's why those parents were being held back at the school the other day by the police. They didn't want them walking into that classroom. They didn't want them seeing what they had already seen themselves, which I don't think will ever, and I know will never leave their minds. That'll be etched in their minds forever. What kind of evil allowed that 18-year-old gunman to walk into that school after he shot his own grandmother in the face and do that to those children? Now, there was an off-duty Customs and Border Protection agent. He was in the area. There's training going on in this area. When the shooting happened, just so you're all aware, when the shooting happened, I was actually just arriving to McAllen, Texas from Eagle Pass. So Eagle Pass isn't too far from Uvalde. So I had already driven like 4.5 hours. I was covering a border story. I was doing some interviews in McAllen, and we heard about it, that there was an active shooter situation, or that they might have locked down the elementary school. We had no idea at that moment when I arrived around 11:25 or 11:30 or so in the morning that that's what was going on. But I was down there and I was talking to some of my CBP friends, getting calls on the phone, and all of a sudden later in the day, before I got the go ahead to come back to Uvalde, and I wanted to be here. I wanted to cover these stories. I know some people here. I got calls from my friends in CBP, and they were saying, hey, did you know it was a CBP Border Patrol Tactical Unit officer agent who actually took down the gunman? It's called BORTAC. It's a BORTAC team. They're like special operators in the Border Patrol, and they're amazing. They're amazingly trained. They're great guys. They are the kind of people, just like all of our agents are in the Border Patrol. These are just more highly equipped officers that will jump in front of a bullet to save someone's life. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. According to the sources here, people here that knew him, the shooter was still active inside the school. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, folks, because apparently there were officers outside that school too. And they were waiting for a SWAT team while the shooter was in the school. And we're getting pieces of this information, so we're not all aware of what exactly took place, okay? So I think we need to wait till the very end to make any kinds of judgment calls or to question, policies and laws and why things happen and regulations inside, the class, with our law enforcement officials and how they handle school shootings. But this BORTAC officer was there. There was also a deputy, and according to some other folks that I talked to, there was a few other people. But he rushed that school. He made the decision to go in there, and he got into the school while the shooter was still active. He began exchanging rounds with the gunman, who was apparently barricaded inside the 4th grade classroom. Like I said, my daughter's in 4th grade, our youngest child. I can't even imagine what that would be like. I don't even want to. What was going through the mind of this beautiful teacher who was trying to protect her children? What was going through the mind of all these kids when that monster ran in there with that gun, right? The officer was injured during the shooting. I saw a picture of his hat. It literally, his baseball cap. He wasn't even wearing, like, you're probably imagining he's in full gear. He's like all geared up. No, he was off duty. He threw a vest on. He had a baseball trucker's hat on, and a flannel shirt, and he rushed into that school, and that bullet grazed the top of his head. He engaged the shooter, and he eliminated him. Imagine that. He killed him before he could commit any more carnage in that school. And I talked to law enforcement officers here about that on the ground. It was for them, and for the man who, can you imagine, that went into that school, whose name I don't believe has been released yet. I do know who he is, but their name has not been released yet, and he suffered shrapnel. He has some other wounds, but they're not life-threatening wounds. I want you to think about what's happened in our country when we have 18-year-olds willing to make the choice, because he did. He premeditated it. He put it out on Twitter. He let people know he was going to go there just 30 minutes before he went there. And apparently the school, was not locked because it was lunchtime. There was not enough time to barricade. Once they saw him coming over the fence line, he shot the school security officer. It was just complete and utter mayhem. It was a nightmare beyond our wildest imaginations. I don't even think that any of us could ever imagine that. And if you look at those pictures of him running, you can visibly see a gun in his hand. And teachers couldn't make it in time to lock down the school. They just couldn't. I'm going to just tell you straight up. I was talking to parents that really, really wanted to come on camera with me. People that felt like they were ready to talk, and then they just couldn't. And I made a decision while I was out there. Not to rush or bum rush parents for for a story or for an interview. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I couldn't do it because I understand the state of shock that they're in. I understand that they are not clearly thinking. They don't know yet. I mean, they're going through the stages of grief, but right now guys, this just happened. They haven't even had time to process it, right? I mean, you and I, we look in our house. Imagine you're looking at your kids. You're sitting in the kitchen. They're playing. They're watching television. They're on the phone. They're annoying you with whatever, questions they have about something, or they're talking back to you, or they don't want to get ready for school that morning. But their presence in your life is felt, and it touches every part of you, right? Now imagine coming home and your beautiful child and their bedroom and their clothes hanging in the closet and their shoes sitting by the front door and their baseball bat inside the front closet is just there. It's just material. They're no longer with you. Imagine that you have to go to your best friend and say, hey, I'm so sorry you lost your child, but I homeschooled my kids. Luck of the draw, right? Imagine how you'd feel. Imagine the guilt. Imagine the pain. That pain is going to come full force. That pain is not going to go away. And I think that's why every single one of us needs to take a step back and realize what's important in life. This is a very precious, small amount of time that we have on this planet. And no matter how awesome we think we are at predicting the future, we are not. We are not psychics. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We can guess, we can prepare, we can plan. But my God, things happen. And I think maybe the lesson for me, and hopefully for all of us that saw what happened here in Uvalde, is that we need to take some time to be with the people that we love. We need to let them know that we love them. And we need to start doing things that matter, right? We need to start caring about one another. And we need to start doing that and making a difference. Pick up the phone, call your mom and dad, call an aunt you haven't talked to in a long time, tell them you love them, hug your kids, go to a picnic, give them a kiss goodnight, put away all the crap, because I do it too. That means nothing. That means nothing in the long run. Just put that aside for a moment and spend some time with the people that really count, with the people that really love you, because something like this, if it can happen here in Uvalde, it can happen anywhere. Before I close out this podcast, and I know it's not one of my longer ones, I don't have a guest on here right now because I feel like I'm just immersed in a situation that, only those of us that are here can really tell you, I want to talk a little bit about AMAC. And this actually makes me happy because I actually believe there are people doing the right thing and fighting the fight for us in Washington, D.C. And I'm not just saying that. I actually believe that. And I had a chance, to meet with all the folks from AMAC in Florida and just talk with them and spend time with them and see what they're doing. And I don't think there's ever been a more critical time in our nation to fight for our freedom than it is right now. By joining AMAC, you are taking the first steps to saving the America that you love. AMAC offers an alternative to just about every benefit that other group offers, but guess what? Without a liberal agenda. And I really do stand with AMAC, and I hope that you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. Don't forget to put in Carter. That's amac.us/Carter. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause is even greater. Join at amac.us/Carter. Thank you, AMAC, for being a sponsor of this show. So before I wrap this up, I want to tell you a little bit about the people, that I believe represent our nation better than anything. I know that right now there's a lot of focus on this gunman, and I'm not mentioning his name because I do not want to mention his name. whatever happened to that 18-year-old that day that made him make a decision to take all of those beautiful, innocent little souls' lives, I don't care. He made that decision. He alone is responsible for that choice. And I think it's about accepting responsibility. And in our nation, I think we're one of the most generous, most amazing people on planet Earth. This country is by far the greatest nation on earth. It is a beacon of light for people all over the world, or I wouldn't be at the border every single day, it feels like this year, reporting on it. But we also have a problem too. We have, I don't know what's going on here. I did not get raised this way. I know many of you probably did not, but there's a lot of people that believe they are owed something. You know, that they have a certain sense of narcissism that goes far beyond anything we can ever imagine. They believe that because someone hurt them, that they have the right to hurt everybody else. Or they believe because they have certain feelings about things that we just have to accept it willy-nilly, or we are intolerant. Right? No. We have a right to stand up for ourselves, for our children, for our nation. We have every God-given right to stand up for our liberty. But guess what? Just because you don't get what you want when you want it does not make it anybody else's fault. And guess what? Just like my dad used to tell me, life is tough. Nobody owes you anything. That's all up to you. If you want something bad enough in life, you work for it. You know, not all of us have a different cross to bear. All of us have a different story, some far worse than others. You know, I think about my husband and he'll talk to people. His dad was out of the picture when he and his brother were little. He was raised by a single mom who worked like my mother did. I mean, for like a slave for small wages, you know, just to make sure that they were fed and had clothing. And I remember my mom working at a factory. And I remember having really tough times as a kid sometimes, really tough. Just like many of you did. And just like some kids now do. But I never believed that it was everybody else's fault. It was circumstances. And you know, God help us. Somebody bad does something to you. That's horrible. But what right do you have, any of us have, to take it out on innocent people or anyone for that matter? Life is not fair. It is a glorious gift, but it is not fair. And it's all how you look at it. It's all how you manage it. And when you or me or anyone else choose to take out our anger on innocent people, that's just plain wrong. But when you see an act like this, an act of pure evil, an act of pure narcissistic evil, something that I think for most of us is just so unfathomable, well, then we know something is wrong. We're hearing stories, and my daughter's school had to increase security 41%. We're only a few hours from Uvalde because of their concern that there'll be copycats. There was an incident in Donna ISD, which is the school district out by Rio Grande Valley sector. Apparently they were, and I still got to, make sure this is all verifiable. And I know I'm on a podcast, but I did read that there was concern there that there may be students that were planning on being copycats as well. So we live in really weird times. This isn't about the gun. This is about our kids. This is about stopping for one moment, and assessing what we are doing as a society and as family and as individuals to one another. And please, 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 don't ever tell your kids that everything has to be fair, that, that they grow up believing that, they're the most special. Well, of course they're the most special thing, but life is not always about giving. We love our children probably way more than other people do. I mean, if they're crying on an airplane, right? We're like, oh, it's my beautiful baby. While 3 people behind us were probably like, oh my gosh, that baby will not stop crying. And we love our children that way. But please teach your children to go beyond themselves, to love others. And let's listen, guys. If someone out there is mentally ill, if someone out there is showing signs of severe depression or anger or something, don't just ignore it. Don't just walk away. Listen, report it. Talk to someone about it. Talk to them before they snap. You will save lives. Trust me, you will save lives. And those lives may be the people that are closest to you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. This is a tough time for our nation. We should say prayers for everyone and say prayers, people, for the people of Uvalde who are suffering so greatly. And just remember that we're all one big family. This is not just, this is about all of us. This is about all our children. God bless you. God bless this great nation. I'm so happy to have Kevin Demerit here on the Sara Carter Show. He is the founder of Lear Capital. I'm sure you've heard of Lear Capital. Your company's been around for a very long time. It has an incredible reputation. Why do you think your company has been so successful as compared to other companies out there doing the same thing?
Yeah, I think there's 2 reasons. One is education. We have a lot of educational material that we'd like to send out to people so people understand what they're getting, what to expect out of the investment. And once they feel comfortable with it, then we can do business. And usually that business lasts for years and years and years. I mean, we still have clients doing business with us from 97 and 1999, I just saw. The second reason is inventory. We have a huge inventory so that we can recommend or people can select the metals that are best for them. It's a very capital intensive business, as you can imagine. Gold's a couple of $1,000s an ounce, so you kind of need a lot of it if you're going to do business. We want to make sure that we have the right inventory for everybody's needs. And if we don't, then, don't do business with us. But we've built that up over the years, and I think that's going to be a big difference and really help people position themselves correctly.
To learn more about adding gold and other precious metals to your portfolio heading into times of financial uncertainty like we are right now, visit learsara.com. That's LEARSARA.com.
Hey guys, we know it's hard to keep up with all the news these days, but don't worry because we're here to talk and laugh about it all. Monkeypox is the newest disease that the media is creating panic with. Pelosi was denied communion from the Archbishop, and we interviewed former Navy SEAL Jack Carr. Hey, it's the Chicks here from the Chicks on the Right podcast. Download and subscribe to our daily podcast to hear us pick apart and pick on the news of the day. Politics to pop culture, nobody's safe, but it's all fun. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.